The Out of Bounds Show podcast is brought to you by Boar's Head, premium meats, cheeses, and hummus. Boar's Head, compromise elsewhere.
WRKS Pickens Jackson.
All systems go.
Live from the Whiskey 61 Lounge inside the BankPlus Studio.
Is now awarded.
Live in the studio. It's the Out of Bounds Show with Bo Bounds. Streaming live worldwide on the Out of Bounds radio app. And on your radio at ESPN 105.9.
All set? Let's go.
The Zone.
Woo! Well, I feel like that was a really, really quick turnaround. Good morning. Welcome in on a National Championship Tuesday for the Georgia Bulldogs. We are the Out of Bounds Show, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, WRKS. And some people know the feeling of what Georgia fans are experiencing this morning. And it is nothing short of amazing. They will be riding high in Georgia, that is for sure. I'm your host, Bo Bounds, on the road here on a Tuesday. Chilly morning. Glad that Blake Mania showed up. I think Will the Thrill is back in the BankPlus Studio, too. Show is powered by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and award-winning DancingRabbitGolf.com. I hope you took Georgia and laid the points. I hope you took Georgia and laid the points. Or, Blake, depending on where you grabbed it, the game went 33-18. So 51 points, you would have to believe those that went under. How about that, buddy?
51, right at it, man. Wasn't that funny? I thought about 51. That last night. I thought about that. All those stalled drives for Alabama kicking field goals, man. If you score some touchdowns, that over's money.
Oh, man.
Brutal.
True Maroon says, morning, guys. Good morning, big dog. True Maroon is newly married, by the way.
He got married Saturday.
How about that?
Shout out to True
That
Maroon.
guy, man, that cat decided to tie the knot. Good for him.
Proud of him for listening on the honeymoon, I guess. Good job.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah. There you go. Farm Bureau Insurance call-in line is 601-995-1059. Twitter handle @BoBounds. And Mississippi Ag is now Ag Up Equipment, and the text line is 601-885-3776. Matt, Luke, and Stetson Bennett IV are national champions. Man, let that float out there a little bit. How you feel about that? Stetson Bennett IV and Matt Luke are national champions, following in the footsteps of Tanner Allen and Chris Lemonis. Blake, did you see Matt Luke on the sideline last night? I did.
Man, he had, I'm not going to lie, that was a grin to rival that of beating Dan Mullen in the Egg Bowl. It was hard to tell which shot it was, but boy, he was smiling, wasn't he?
He was. He became a multimillionaire by beating Dan Mullen in one game, and now he is a national champion. So Stetson Bennett IV, it was, he was really called on to make one play, I guess, last night. That 40-yarder was sweet. Little teardrop in the bucket, and did what he had to do. He was uncomfortable throughout the evening, but Bama couldn't score touchdowns, right? I mean, Bama couldn't score touchdowns. I thought Bryce Young handled himself well under a lot of duress and pressure last night, and still threw some beautiful footballs and hit guys in the hands throughout the evening, but Bama couldn't get it done. Georgia took advantage. And I thought at one point that Georgia D was running out of gas, and Bama went away from running the football, which was interesting. And I know that's weird, but they had some success there. What was that, late third quarter? And they were actually burning and churning on the yards and doing some cool things in the running game. And and went away from that. And then, of course, in the fourth quarter, Georgia scores 20 points. And their defense got their legs and whatever, the toughness and the motivation back under them. And they did what they had to do to beat the mighty, mighty Nick Saban, who lost to two former assistant coaches this year. He lost to Jimbo Fisher in the regular season, in which evidently A&M believes that's a championship. And then Kirby Smart beats Nick Saban
in
the national championship game. And Georgia is a natty national champion winner for the first time since 1980, when Herschel Walker and that defense did what they had to do. Because I think Buck Bellew was like 2 of 5 in the game. Got to give Stetson Bennett IV some credit. I mean, he's by far and away the best national championship quarterback they've had.
Hello.
And 17 of 26 for 224 and 2 TDs, including that beautiful 40-yarder. Tip of the cap to Stetson Bennett IV. But that defense did what they had to do when they needed it the most in the red zone. And when Bama lost Jamison Williams, nobody's going to feel sorry for Bama, and you shouldn't. But when they lost Jamison Williams, they just didn't have enough on the outside to create the explosive plays that they needed to create. And again, Bryce Young hit some guys right in their hands throughout the evening, and they couldn't come up with it. And Blake, Georgia wins.
Yeah.
And it was close throughout. It got away from Alabama late. But a heck of a game. A lot of suspense. I know they weren't scoring much, but I was glued throughout the evening. Did you enjoy it?
Oh,
was
yeah.
it entertaining?
I mean, like you said, with 10 minutes to go in the game, Alabama had a 5-point lead and had missed a 2-point conversion to make it a 7-point lead. So, by all standards, the momentum was somewhat with Alabama at that point. Although, obviously, like you said, their inability to challenge the Georgia defense outside a 10-yard box off the line of scrimmage allowed Georgia to kind of clamp down and just really grind down on that Alabama front. And look, it's so funny. The first play of the game, I thought we were going to have this game-changing moment. Like you and I talked about, like if Georgia's going to win, they're going to need a defensive score. They're going to need to get to Bryce Young. And what happens on the first play of the game? They get to Bryce Young, and they get what looks like a Nakobe Dean scoop and score touchdown. Obviously, that was overruled, and the game continued to play out. But it did set the tone, in my opinion, for the fact that Georgia looked so much faster and so much more aggressive and so much more attacking on defense than they did a month ago when they met in Atlanta.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, what a game. Congratulations to Kirby Smart, to Georgia, that defense, that offensive line. Good grief. And that 67-yard run was, oh, God. I mean, you talking about clutch in that game from James Cook. Starts right, cuts, goes left. Alabama defender takes the bad angle, and boom, he's 67 yards down the field. That was a huge play, too, and it was two best teams in the country. Wasn't close. And I hate to tell you, Mississippi State fans, but you're drawing Georgia again for the second time in 3 years this year.
Better hope it's the Stetson Bennett celebratory tour.
Oh, gosh.
I tell you what.
I mean, talking about some grown men in that game. And Alabama, man, with Bryce Young coming back, and you know they'll be better at wide receiver. Goodness gracious. Georgia 33, Bama 18. I'm going to say it all morning. Stetson Bennett IV and Matt Luke are national champs. Blake believes now that Kirby Smart is, without question, the best coach in college football. Welcome in. Good morning. The show is brought to you by the Golden Moon Casino Sportsbook and DancingRabbitGolf.com. Woo! You're listening to ESPN 105.9 The Zone. WRKS, the Out of Bounds Show. Big board coming up next. The Out of Bounds Show podcast is presented by Edwin Watts Golf Shop on County Line Road. Your golf game starts with Edwin Watts Golf Shop.
What's on the big board? What's on the big board?
All right, good morning. The big board is brought to you by our friends at Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center. Fortification in Belhaven, where I grew up, one of the greatest neighborhoods in the history of the country. And Mississippi Sports Medicine and Orthopedic Center, new surgery center and clinic, Lakeland Drive, Flowood. Any age, any sport, any injury, they've got you covered. MississippiSportsMedicine.com. The Blakey Blakester is with me. I am your host, Bo Bounds. Congratulations to UGA and Dominique Wilkins. That's right. Vince Dooley.
Hines Ward
tweeting last night. One of my favorite players. Golly, what an absolute baller. Yeah. All the Georgia alums getting into it. And they should. Winning is hard. Winning a championship is extremely difficult. Whew. I don't care what level. It is hard. Coaching. Excuse me. Blake, when you look at what Georgia went through to get here, they went in 80, and that may as well have been 100 years ago.
Yeah.
And then ESPN democratizes college football. We talk about it all the time. ESPN democratized college football just like Southwest Airlines democratized the skies. And so when that happened, there was obviously a paradigm shift. And the rest of the 80s, Georgia was whatever. The 90s, whatever. And the 2000s, Georgia hires Mark Richt, and he kind of sniffs around the whole thing, but never, ever gets there to close the deal. Kirby in year two, literally, think about coaching. It's a microcosm of life, but, think about coaching. It will rip your heart out. Literally.
He was, 13 seconds from a title in his second season?
Yeah. They had done everything they were supposed to do. And then Bama makes, substitutes and things get weird in the second half, and all of a sudden you're in overtime, and boom, 2 freshmen walk you off in Tua Tagovailoa and Devontae Smith. And then you go through this other stretch, and you're still winning, and you're dominating, and you're recruiting better than you ever have, and you roll out this year, and nobody challenges you. The East is awful, terrible. The SEC East was awful, no good. And you pull Auburn and Arkansas, and you take care of them, and you face Bama in the SEC championship game, and you get embarrassed. And then over 3 weeks, you get your act together. Congratulations to Kirby Smart and his coaching staff, by the way. You control what you can control, which is the next game against Michigan. And you come out and dominate the Michigan Wolverines. And then last night, with the ebb and flow of the game, and the game, it's just hanging there in the balance. First quarter, second quarter, third quarter, and you're thinking, can we do it? Can we finally get them? And then Bama goes up, scores a touchdown, doesn't get the 2-point conversion. A lot of people are thinking, this is it. And Georgia does what they need to do. They get it done, and all kinds of theatrics. And boom, they score 20 points in the fourth quarter. Big plays left and right. from their players on defense who just, golly, they did not quit. Even when Bama moved the ball up and down the field and couldn't do it in the red zone. I mean, we talk about it all the time, don't we? Offensive and defensive scoring efficiency. Offensive and defensive scoring efficiency. Nobody was talking about it in the world of college football until some nerd outside of Portland, Oregon, came up with the college football matrix and said, guys, here it is. I've been running the numbers on all my little spreadsheets because I'm a little nerd and I love him. His name's Dave Bartu. Nobody was talking about it. Coaches, former players, guys who played, who got into sports. Nobody was talking about offensive and defensive scoring efficiency. Now it is 100% the number one thing. What can you do in the red zone? Are you good enough? Play calling wise, down and distance, shorter field, all that. Not as much room, da-da-da-da-da. And boom, Stetson Bennett IV and Matt Luke, two of Blake Scott's favorite guys, are
no doubt
national champions. You can't ever take it away from them.
Don't forget Will Muschamp, by the way, either.
Will Muschamp, defensive analyst Will Muschamp is a national champion.
You ain't lying. It is true.
Is he the next defensive coordinator
at Ole Miss?
Oh, wow.
Why not? Why not?
Wow. Ed Ogeron? Who would you take? Eddie O, who's never never been a play caller. Or
is that a real question, or are you just like teasing the audience?
Well, I mean, who would you take?
Will Muschamp,
Ed Ogeron
100
or
times.
Will Muschamp?
If I'm hiring a defensive coordinator, it's Will Muschamp every day of the week and 3 times on Saturday.
Yeah, he's called plays. I don't know what his defensive scoring efficiency numbers and ratings are because it was so long ago since he's been a DC. I guess back at Auburn?
Yeah, he did a 1-year stint at Auburn before he took the South Carolina job, right? Or 2 years?
I think so.
Florida. He did go to Auburn. I don't remember if it was 1 or 2 seasons, but he went Florida, then Auburn for either 1 or 2.
Will the Thrill is there, he needs to use the Google.
Will says 1.
Okay. All right, so Will the Thrill has Will Muschamp going to Auburn for 1 year, and that was the last time he called plays. All right.
Yeah.
Cool.
How about this, though?
Cool.
Alabama, now this kind of back and forth with Georgia. Is it safe to say Alabama finally has a rival in the SEC?
They do.
It's Georgia. I mean, I
thought it was Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss or Jimbo and A&M.
Hello. I think we all wanted Alabama to get challenged. I think it was hard for a lot of us, especially after the SEC title game, to believe that they would get challenged enough, right? But you lose. Look, you can make a stark delineation between Alabama's offense against Georgia pre-John Mechie's injury and Alabama's offense against Georgia post-John Mechie's injury, which happened right after their 24-point run in the second quarter. It happened right at the end of the first half. And so, you lose one of those guys, okay, I get it. You can kind of manage. You've got Jamison Williams. You lose both of them, and you saw, I mean, as good as Bryce Young was and as good as they were trying to be and as talented as that roster is, Georgia's defense was just too much. And so that's got to be the recipe for Kirby Smart, right? Just be elite on defense, try to be slightly better on offense than they were this year, and you got to hope a few things break your way, and you're right there every time.
Well, now that's a good point. The debate will be whether Stetson Bennett needs to come back.
What would you do if you were Stetson Bennett, knowing your skill? And it's hard to be honest with yourself because that kid probably thinks he could beat anybody, right? And rightfully so. I get why. I get why he would believe that.
He's like, hey, Blake, did you see that 40-yard touchdown pass I threw?
Yeah, he's like, I balled out. It's like, no, you dribbled the football on the ground in the first quarter. Like, you looked like a scared child. But that's not the point. He won. That's great. But if you're Stetson Bennett, like, wouldn't you want to ride? Like, think about if you got to take your victory lap as a senior national champion, not in football, run the fraternity rows, then you'll take over the Athens Country Club 5 minutes after you graduate. I mean, man, it'd be hard to go back to practice in spring if I'm Stetson Bennett.
JT Daniels to Ole Miss?
Hello.
Good morning. Welcome in. The Big Board is brought to you by Superior Foundation. For all your foundation repairs, Superior Foundation. It's also powered by Independent Roofing Systems, the #1 commercial roofing company in Mississippi. Independent Roofing Systems. You can visit roofing.ms. Good morning. Welcome in.
The Out of Bounds Show podcast is presented by the Premium Cigars at Havana Smoke Shop. Visit their 2 locations, I-55 in Jackson and on the Res, for your premium cigar needs. Only at Havana Smoke Shop.
So, should we make this like the official Matt Luke Day for the state of Mississippi? Like the legislature should make it official, Blake? What do you think?
I mean, he's the reason they won it, right?
Offensive line coach. Is he their recruiting coordinator?
I think that's technically
He
his
may
title.
be. Pretty impressive. Isn't it amazing? First of all, welcome in. Good morning. Heck of a national don't you love college football? Golly, how much fun was that last night? Oh, man, that was edge of your seat type stuff. I know the thing got, a little out of hand late, but that was 2 heavyweight fighters just boom, boom, throwing down.
I mean, it really wasn't even out of hand, though, because if Georgia doesn't pick 6 it, Alabama could have tied with a touchdown and a 2-point conversion.
That's a great point.
It was 26-18, so if Alabama scores with that 40 seconds left, you want to talk about like a just as much as Stetson Bennett has written his name in the history books, if Bryce Young had walked off Auburn on a 1-minute touchdown drive and then tied Georgia to go to overtime in the title on a 1-minute touchdown drive, I mean, that would have been iconic, Alabama football lore. If they score and tie it and take Georgia's manhood in overtime again. So, I mean, it's a big play by Georgia's defense right there.
Sure. Out of Bounds, 105.9 The Zone, ESPN, is brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be Blue, the official health care provider of the Out of Bounds show. Good morning. Welcome in Georgia, Kirby Smart, Stetson Bennett IV, and Matt Luke are all national champions. You saw so many of their players. I mean, man, they have had some dudes go through that program. We mentioned Hines Ward earlier. Matthew Stafford. Great players. Garrison Hurst was one of my favorite players growing up. You had A.J. Green. David Pollock is on ESPN. The list goes on and on. And so Bama will not go back-to-back. Georgia won it for the first time since 1980, if you want to count that. I'm not sure there really was a national champion pre-1998. Again, I'm not going to go through all that, all the nonsense of the way that, the voting was done, which was about as inept and poor as you could do it. But now, we had the BCS national championship game for years. Now we got the college football playoff. Which, by the way, they couldn't come to an agreement to expand the college football playoff. So not sure if and when that is going to happen, but they left $450 million on the table. We'll see if they can figure it out, so to speak. We'll get into that a little bit later. We're going to kind of stay on what this means for Kirby Smart, what this means for the SEC. Kind of what are you thinking if you're Clemson, Ohio State, and Southern Cal?
But what are you thinking if you're A&M?
Well, Jimbo won the regular season national championship. Evidently, he beat Bama in the national championship, and then
won the Cruden championship.
He did do that, and then he was rewarded with the Gator Bowl against powerhouse Wake Forest, and then A&M bailed out of it. Mike Leach played 4 games last year with less than 50 players, and as soon as Jimbo hit a certain, I think they were in the 60s, he was like, "We're out. We're not traveling." I went 8-4 this year. People think I'm amazing because I beat Bama, and I'm nowhere closer to, getting to the SEC championship game and to the college football playoff. But, hey, congratulations to Kirby Smart, Matt Luke, Stetson Bennett IV, Nakobe Dean, and many, many others. It is darn hard to win championships. I don't care what level, sport. We talk about it all the time. As I get older, I'm even more in awe of what it takes to get the team together. High school level, incredible. You win it in soccer. You win it in softball. You win it in football, basketball. Unbelievable. I mean, you've got to be so good for so many weeks and so many months. It's incredible. It really is. It's extremely difficult to win. All of us can bring our B and C game. Blake always tells me I like to bring my D game, which is not very nice. But I'm very capable of that and having super crappy shows and segments, which frustrates me. My point is this. It's hard to win. That was an unbelievable game, and you just have to love college football. You have to. And, we don't get it now until Labor Day, which is actually a good thing. It makes you want it, miss it, all that stuff. If we had it year-round, it wouldn't be the same.
Can I float this crazy theory to you?
Well, hold it. Can I throw something out real quick?
Please.
And I want you to read please float the theory, and then in a few minutes, I want you to read the Brad Edwards tweet.
Yes,
okay?
absolutely.
But hang on. The Out of Bounds show is brought to you by what was Mississippi Ag, is now Ag Up Equipment. And the Ag Up Equipment text line is 601-885-3776. I would like to get we would like your feedback on the game last night, what it means for the league, what it means for college football, is now Georgia punches their ticket as another team in the 2000s from the SEC to win it. So, we've had LSU, we've had Florida, Bama, Auburn, now Georgia win national titles from the Southeastern Conference in the 2000s. And on top of that, Matt Luke is a national champion. He is an assistant coach at Georgia. Nakobe Dean from Mississippi. I know there's other Mississippi ties. Matt Luke from Gulfport walked on at Ole Miss, had a wonderful career, went on to become an assistant and a head coach. Actually left Lane Kiffin with some nice groceries to work with. Kudos to Matt Luke and Jacob Peeler and several Phil Longo and Derek Nix and some others. And so Georgia beats Bama in the national championship game. Hines Ward was tweeting last night, one of the greatest players in the history of the Southeastern Conference, and just an unbelievable football player for the Pittsburgh Steelers. We've had Herschel Walker on the show, which is kind of cool. He actually joined us live from the Sanderson Farms Championship a couple of years ago. An absolute Southern gentleman. Had a great time catching up with him both before the interview and afterwards. Very accommodating. Now, Blake, float the theory. Go
All
for
right.
it.
So I got a theory, and then we'll hit the Brad Edwards stats, which are really crazy and unique and cool. So the year of 2021 was the year of the broken curse in sports. All right, so Mississippi State breaks their curse, wins the national title in college baseball. They exercise their demons against Texas, right? Okay, and then
I like that.
And then,
exercise their demons.
That's
all right,
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and then the Atlanta Braves were able to break the Atlanta sports curse. Right, Atlanta had been cursed as a sports town. They hadn't won anything in 3 decades, and so they were able to break that.
96 or something. But
but I mean that by 96 to 2022, it might as well be 30.
Fair enough.
That's close enough, And so they snapped that streak of the cursed Atlanta town, and then Georgia snaps their curse of 40 years of not having I mean, the year of 2021 was the year of the curse being broken in sports, and I think that's awesome. I love seeing the new teams win it.
Well, it is cool what you just went over, and we're going to get into Brad Edwards' tweet here in just a second. It's some goodies, some yummy college football, Bama stuff. I do want to let you know that we have Tom Luganbill coming up at 8 a.m. Recap the game. All right, and then at 8:30, the wonderful storyteller, Mike Detillier, WWL Radio TV, New Orleans. And both of them will join us on the Bucked Up Energy guest line. Bucked Up Energy Drinks, now available here in central Mississippi. And it's an unbelievable story. It's hard to miss. Buck, deer. It's a picture of a deer with really cool antlers on the can. There's no sugar in this drink. This company is cutting edge. Really, really cool story. We're excited to have them on the show. Lugan, Bill, and Detillier will join us on the Bucked Up Energy Drinks guest line. Blake, you want to drop the tweet from Brad Edwards?
Yeah. So Brad, obviously Alabama guru, dropped some knowledge on us. So there's two cool stats. All right. Yeah, there's two cool stats. Nick Saban has been in Alabama for 15 seasons. He just completed year 15, which that alone is crazy. It doesn't seem like it's been that long, but 15 years. In those 15 years, Alabama has either won the national title or lost to the team that won the national title 14 times. 14 of the 15 years, they've either won it all or had their season ended by the team that won it all.
Wow.
The 1 year they didn't, the 1 year that 15 team or 15 seasons that they didn't lose to the team that won it all was in 2013 when they lost to Auburn in the Iron Bowl, but then Auburn lost on a last-second touchdown to Jameis Winston and Jimbo Fisher.
Wow.
That's pure dominance from Nick Saban. And then to add to that pure dominance, Brad goes on to say, in the 14 seasons after year one, because obviously year one was under probation and things were ridiculous. So in the 14 seasons post year one, Nick Saban and Alabama have only lost 19 games. So that's less than 1.5 a year, right? So 19 games in 14 seasons, okay? Of those 19 losses in 14 years, 10 have been to teams that finished either number 1 or number 2 in the country.
Wow.
So only 9 times in 14 years. Think about it. This is what it boils down to. Only 9 times in 14 years has Alabama lost to a team that didn't finish number 1 or number 2. That's crazy.
That is. Well, look, I don't think anybody will dominate like that again. I may be wrong, but I don't think they will.
No.
Because what has happened is there are enough teams that have upped their game, so to speak. I guess the next question, Blake, is who will be the next team to win it outside of the SEC? Clemson was the last team to win it outside of the Southeastern Conference. So who will be the next team? Because there's only so many. I mean, it's kind of a Clemson, Ohio State, Southern Cal, and I think that's it. I mean, Texas is coming to the SEC. They're not going to win it before then. And neither is Oklahoma. And so when you look around college football, I don't know if Dabo has just been gutted.
Hard to win
as far as assistant coaches, and their recruiting fell off this past year, which is never good. I mean, you just got to stay, in the top, 10, but you really need to be in the top 5. Ohio State, Clemson, Southern Cal. We'll see what Lincoln Riley can do out at Southern Cal. They have the numbers, enough of a population out there, enough of a brand if they get the right guy. So maybe they could be a player in a year or two. I guess you just wonder, are we going to be right back, into a Georgia-Bama rematch possibly next year, and who could really legitimately take these two teams down? And what will Georgia do at quarterback? Kudos to Stetson Bennett IV, Mr. Ranch Dressing, national champion. But, obviously he made a couple of great plays, but he's limited. Bryce Young's coming back. Thought he was really good at, hit some Alabama wide receivers that just couldn't come up with the football. And as Blake and I talked about earlier, once Jamison Williams went down, They just didn't really have anything else. They didn't have anything. I mean, Brian Robinson's a nice player, and he was chopping through the defense at times and played a wonderful game. Credit to him and that offensive line. At times, they actually generated some running lanes for him. He never could, bust a big one like Georgia did for 67 yards. That James Cook run was unreal. His vision and the way that he cut, going right, cuts back left, and then boom, runs down the sideline for 67 yards. But those are some of the questions. Are we going to have a rematch? Who can actually challenge Georgia or Alabama outside of the SEC? Or are we going to go on a stretch here for 2 or 3 years where we don't have a team that can challenge Bama and Georgia outside of the Southeastern Conference? Maybe C.J. Stroud and Ohio State, Blake?
Yeah, I 100% believe Ohio State will be right back in the conversation next year. Look, I mean, they had a moderately down year. Their defense was awful this year compared to what it's been in recent memory. But their offense started slow. C.J. Stroud was one of the top 3 quarterbacks in the country by the time the year ended. I mean, he was dealing. So I 100. Well, let me phrase that. Assuming Ryan Day doesn't leave for the NFL, I 100% expect Ohio State to be in the driver's seat in the Big Ten coming into next season, not Michigan.
I agree.
Yeah, so yeah.
I agree.
And that gives you a chance. When you win the Big Ten, just like Southern Cal will always have a shot to be in the playoff when you win the Pac-12, if you get to that point, same thing for Ohio State. You can go 11-1 and win the Big Ten, and you're in the playoff almost every year.
How would you describe the meltdown in Alabama last night? You score and you think we just got the momentum, and if we stop them, we can really do something here. And bam, you never had the momentum again. I mean, you score. Bryce Young made an unbelievable pass across his across his body. Just, I didn't think they would score there. Short field, Georgia, all those monsters, and he did it. And then you don't get the 2-point conversion, which is fine. And then, Blake, they never had momentum again.
No, and that would be my question. What do you think Alabama fans are more upset about? Kicking 4 field goals offensively because they've been a juggernaut on that side of the football the last 8 years, or the fact that they gave up 20 straight points to end the game? I mean, you started. I thought they were in. I thought Alabama was going to be fine when it was 9-3, and it looked like Georgia couldn't move the football either. But then I started thinking, and I was like, well, hold on. Which defense do I trust to stay the course, and which do I trust to maybe let off a little bit? Well, I trusted Georgia's defense more than Alabama's. So you're sitting here going, well, if Alabama can't add a touchdown and kind of stretch this lead out, I mean, what if that game instead of 9-3 is 17-3, right? Totally different game for Georgia and Stetson Bennett. But because their defense just held you to field goals, Georgia was never out of it.
Yeah, they weren't. And kudos to them. That touchdown could have deflated the sideline, and they could have just said, here we go again.
Yeah, absolutely.
Here we go again. They have our number. They've just ripped our heart out. My gosh, we just played them the SEC championship game. They dropped 24 in the second quarter. Last year in our regular season game in Tuscaloosa, we didn't even score in the second half. Here we go again. What a credit to Georgia and their players and their coaches, and that's championship caliber stuff. Just, we've got to find a way to get over the hump. And you mentioned Mississippi State baseball earlier. They got hit in the nose by the big monster of Vanderbilt in game 1 of the CWS. Could have just said, that's it. And they didn't. And that's hard. That's extremely difficult to do. Georgia took the shot from the heavyweight. Took an absolute right hook right to the nose and the jaw, and they were able to reset and go get it and make big plays, and it was one big play after another from all three levels of their defense, by the way. And like you said, Blake, they do just enough on offense. Obviously, Stetson's 40-yard pass was absolutely beautiful. Good catch, too, by the way. By what was his name?
It was Adonai Mitchell.
Mitchell.
Adonai Mitchell? I don't know how to say that. Yeah.
Mitchell. And it was a lot of fun. The Out of Bounds Show brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. We have a new national championship coach who's not 50 years old, 46 years old. You have Stetson Bennett's a natty, right? He's a national championship quarterback. Blake and I believe that he could set a record on selling both insurance and mutual funds in the state of Georgia. I mean, this guy, sky's the limit.
How many NIL deals?
He looks like the Kappa Sig Rush chairman. He just won a national championship in football. He looks like the guy that you're going to happy hour with this afternoon. It's just incredible. Unbelievable. And look, hey, Blake, he was running for his life throughout the night. You know? And they tattooed him several times, and he got up. I tell you what. We have fun with him, and obviously he is super limited, but goodness gracious, that kid's tough as nails to hang in there and do what he did. The Out of Bounds Show is brought to you by Independent Roofing Systems, the #1 commercial roofing company in Mississippi. Independent Roofing Systems, roofing.ms. Roofing.ms. Let's see. The Real Eric says Stetson Bennett couldn't light that cigar, though. Did y'all see that? LOL. Hey, what about Nakobe Dean? Did he really have an Alabama hat on?
Yeah, so
what happened there?
That's not Will and I were talking about that. The players, that's an intern's fault with the college football championship because they don't. I mean, the Alabama or the Georgia football players or whoever wins the national title doesn't like go to a rack and make sure they pick the right hat out. All that stuff is handed to them on the middle of the field. So somebody made a mistake last night handing out the wrong hats.
Yeah.
I mean, that's not, it stinks that it was Nakobe Dean who had it on, but I mean, it's not, he was just handed something. He probably didn't even look at it. He's sitting there going, I just want a natty. I don't care. It doesn't matter.
Hey, Pug on the Ag Up Equipment text line said, expect interesting police reports to come out today throughout the state of Alabama. Oh, God. I hope not.
There is no doubt there will be. Absolutely there will be.
Stephen Brandon, has a conference ever had 3 different teams win the Natty consecutively? No. Blake, can you think of any?
No. I mean, maybe if you go back to like the 40s when there were only 10 teams that counted,
that
right?
Count.
Harvard and Princeton trading championships in the 1900s.
I can't do that. That's not
nonsense. How about this, though, and we'll get into this when we figure out what Stetson Bennett's plan is, but if Stetson comes back to Georgia for another season as the starter, well, not just that, but what are the NIL deals going to be like for that man in Athens?
Oh. Wasn't that the former Augusta National chairman, Billy Payne, on the sideline by...
I believe it was, yeah.
By Vince Dooley last night, or do I have that wrong?
I believe that's correct.
Maybe one of our listeners can correct me. Show is brought to you by Blue Cross Blue Shield of Mississippi. It's good to be blue, the official healthcare provider of the Out of Bounds Show. Good morning. Welcome in. We have 2 fantastic guests coming up in this next hour, including Tom Lugan with ESPN coming up next, and Mike Detillier, Radio TV New Orleans at 8:30. They will join us on the Bucked Up Energy guest line.
The Out of Bounds Show is excited to welcome in Mac Haik in Flowood. Mac Haik Flowood is the #1 volume Jeep and Ram truck dealership in Mississippi. Go to MacHikeFlowood.com and you can see the #1 selection of pre-owned trucks and SUVs. Whether you're looking for new or pre-owned truck or SUV, there's only one place for you to go. Mac Haik in Flowood and MacHikeFlowood.com. Mississippi's #1 Jeep and Ram truck dealer.